This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. It's been a while, but I'm joined by the unified super lightweight champion of the world, the Tartan Tornado, Josh Taylor. Hi, Josh.
Not bad, Rob. Good to see you. It's been a long time. See, you've still got your beard. Trimmed it a bit better, but yeah, it's good. Good to see you again, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. Very well. I trimmed it up especially for you because I know that every start of all of our interviews, it's always started by a nice little dig about the beard and the homeless look that I've sported.
No, you've trimmed it up. You're looking good. You're looking suave, mate. So it's good to see you. Looking well.
Thanks very much, mate. You're looking well as well. The sun has come to Preston Pans, or to Harlow as we are today. You're looking very tan, Josh.
Yeah, kind of caramelish, do you know what I mean? Mahogany sort of colour. I've been going on wee 10-minute, 16-minute holidays to the sunbeds, you know, so need to look good, feel good and all that, you know, so good, feeling good.
Well, the travel ban's kind of like ruined a lot of people's holiday plans for this year, so we'll let you off that. You're sort of like the tanned tornado now and not the tartan tornado.
That's it. You know, I went from being pale blue straight to caramel, so I kind of skipped white and went straight to mahogany. And then, caramel, but I'm feeling good, feeling sexy.
No comment on the last one, but let's talk about the boxing. Obviously, the reason that we're here. We've spoken briefly throughout lockdown and throughout this year. I mean, I can't believe that we're in September. But since the last time we spoke properly on camera, you do have a new training setup. You're now with Ben Davison after leaving Shane McGuigan at the end of 2019. Feels like a lifetime ago, but anyway, let's go right back to the start of your relationship with Ben. Why Ben Davison? Why join Ben?
Well, obviously, like I was thinking about, for a while. It wasn't just a jump ship operation. I'd been thinking about it for a while, and after the last fight was the perfect time to do it. And I was been looking at coaches and stuff for ages, and just with looking at Ben, with the way he was working with Billy Joe Saunders, obviously with Billy Joe being a southpaw, fast hands, fast feet, good timing, combination puncher, good head movement and all that sort of kind of similar to what I do. It wasn't too far for what I really do, and just the kind of style of combination and stuff that we're doing on the pads, I thought it would have really worked, with me, and it seems to have been a good choice. As soon as we had a couple of sessions together, we just clicked straight away, and yeah, it's been good, learning loads, and also touching back to basics and doing this and that and things that I've kind of neglected in my last couple of fights. So yeah, it's been really good, and we're flying. We can't wait to get in here and on Saturday now, and yeah, we can't wait. Yeah.
Obviously, it's a unique situation with you changing trainers. A lot of the times, a fighter will change a trainer on the back of a loss, or something significant would have happened to the trainer-fighter team. Obviously, your reasons were slightly different. How does that affect things moving from somebody who, I mean, I've spoken to you, spoken to Shane, you both kind of made no secret of the fact that you had a great working relationship as fighter and trainer. That's obviously now not there, you're with Ben. Does that change things at all, not coming off the back of that?
No, I don't think so. We've had a long time together, Ben and I. Obviously, we started training together the end of January, February. We went over to Vegas. We were training for Billy Joe was preparing for Canelo, and then obviously that got cut short. So we come back, and I had a couple of months at home. But during that couple of months at home, I was keeping fit, keeping training, keeping sort of sharp and fit, And then we come back, we figured out, we kept in communication, and we figured out, obviously Spain was open, Fuerteventura, there had been no cases over there. And we booked the first available flight from England straight out to Spain. So we done that. We flew on the first flight and we stayed over there for 5 weeks. And I think that was brilliant preparation and time, and like to spend together. Get to know each other personally a bit better. We're staying in the same house. Living together and training together every day. So it was really good. We got to know each other personally, and sort of get to know how each other click and stuff in the gym. And we come back. I had a week back here, and then straight back into the gym here. So we've been here ever since, and we're just flying. So I think the lockdown, has actually worked in my favour a little bit. We've had that little bit more time together to work together and get to know each other. So I think it's been brilliant. To be fair, I don't think there's going to be any issues at all.
Now, someone I've spoken to Ben throughout kind of the time that I've known Ben. Obviously, I know Ben very well as well as I do Shane. Ben's always kind of had this levelled at him, and that he's a defensive trainer, that he likes to put defence first. It's not something that he's ever really kind of refuted either, to be honest. But is that what kind of drove you to him? You're an offensive fighter. You're somebody who likes to get on the inside in the pocket, get on the chest and fight very aggressively. Looking at Ben, somebody who has been kind of labelled as a defensive fighter, was that kind of appealing to you? Obviously, you mentioned in your last couple of fights, the Baranchuk fight, you caught a lot of shots on the inside. The Prograis fight was obviously a brilliant fight, but a fight where you not neglected your defence, but you took a lot of shots in that fight. Was that appealing to you from Ben?
Yeah, kind of things like, just forgetting my fundamentals that make me who I am. My feet work, my good feet work, my good defence. It's one of the things I was kind of brought up on and schooled upon. My feet work's always been probably one of my best lines of defences, and I think the last couple of fights I kind of neglected it a little bit. I kind of planted my feet a little bit more and fighting more in the inside than I should have. Even though I'm great inside, I think I'm one of the best inside. At close range and mid range. But at times just holding my feet a bit too long, getting a bit lazy with my defence, taking shots and catching shots that I shouldn't really be there for, and things like that. So yeah, we got touched back to the basics that I'm already good at. But just making it second nature again, and doing all that sort of stuff. So yeah, don't get us wrong, I'm still a very offensive fighter, and still come forward, go at you and go and try and kill you, kind of thing. I want to kill you when I'm inside there. But that's never leave me. That is my style. We're just been brushing up on the things that I've been neglecting and making me even better at what I'm good at, and sort of brushing up on the things that I'm a wee bit weaker at. So yeah, it's been really good, and learning and just the whole thing from start to finish, just fresh start, fresh everything, fresh page, fresh new book. You know what I mean? So it's just I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really happy, relaxed, and I think you'll see on Saturday that it's going to be a good performance, and the way I fight, and that I am happy and I've made a good choice. So yeah, I can't wait to get in there on Saturday.
You kind of mentioned, you make a good point there, and you're in this kind of difficult quandary of, you're still a relatively young fighter, or you've had, as I say, young fighter, you've not had 30, 40 fights, but you're also unified champion of the world, consensus #1 in the division. So it's kind of that case of, trainers, when they work with new fighters, they say, I don't need to change his style completely, but obviously there are some things that you've seen from Ben that you do want to implement into that. Guess what I'm trying to say is, how important is it that you don't, take a shot in the first round and see that red mist drop down and try and stick to what you've been working on, as opposed to reverting to that type, which, it's important to point out, has brought you a lot of success? Yeah,
obviously I'm not going to say anything about the way I'm going to fight. We'll see how it goes when the first bell rings. But we've been working on things, and just more clinical, and poised aggression and stuff as well. Just being a bit more tactical, a bit more smart. Like you say, I've not really taken much punishment, but in the last 2 fights I stood there and took punches that I really shouldn't have been there for, and could have made the fights a hell of a lot easier for myself. So yeah, we'll see how it goes on Saturday, but I'm not going to tell you the way I'm going to fight, but you'll see on Saturday it's going to be a good performance.
Mention those last couple of fights. It is important to point out that they're world title fights against elite level fighters, particularly Regis Prograis. So, the fact that you've taken shots in those fights, they're your 14th and 15th fight. So it's not not uncommon for you to take that when you're fighting such high level opposition. Before we move on, you mentioned about fighting on the inside. One person who doesn't seem to understand your capabilities on the inside, Mr. Andre Ward. That surprised me. I know it surprised you, and I know that you also have a lot of respect for your Andre Wards and people like that. But what was that like hearing his comments on you?
I actually never even heard it. It was one of my mates that told us about it, and I was like, he's never really took anything from it. To be fair, I just thought, well, he obviously doesn't know me, or maybe not seen me fighting, or whatever, or maybe he has seen me fighting, but his way, he's sort of in fighting the way he did it, or I don't know, but I couldn't really care. I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to say something back to him anyway, just to put something out there, and that was it really, just a bit of, you don't know shit, because I know I can fight inside, and that's it, end of, I know that, and that's it really.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say you were quite well supported on your claims in that, and I think Mr. Ward was, I don't know whether he regretted those comments, I'd have to ask him, but as I say,
I don't know if he's seen me fight or not, I don't know, like he's maybe just looking at the stats on whatever he's looking at on the bit of paper. He's tall, southpaw. Generally, they can't really box and fight inside. It's tall southpaws, they're kind of counter punchers, whatever. I don't know if he's maybe just read it or whatever. So I took it with a pinch of salt. Everybody's making a big thing of it, but I really couldn't care what he thinks, to be honest. I don't know. I've never met him. I think he's a great fighter, one of the greatest ever. I think respect him hugely. I just obviously said, you don't know shit, because I know I can fight inside. So I've obviously not seen me fight. Maybe he has, I don't know, but I couldn't really care, to be honest.
Moving on, Apinun Khongsong. Somebody asked me yesterday, I appeared on a podcast, and they said about Apinun Khongsong, they said not the best opponent. Now, I know that you've had an eye on Khongsong, or certainly he's been in the peripheral for a long time. Before the Baranchek fight, he came over because Baranchek, there was a chance for him to pull out of the IBF title as the reserve. How difficult a fight, or how dangerous a fight could this potentially be for you?
Of course it's dangerous. It's a world title fight. It's his big chance to change his life, become world champion. Not just one belt, 3 belts. You know, he's getting the Ring Magazine, WBA, and the IBF. You know, if he wins. You know, so it's a massive, massive chance for him. So believe you me, he's coming here and giving it all. He's going to try and take my head off. You know, so of course it's dangerous. You know, obviously I've seen things that I think I'll expose, and you know, I think I can get him out of there. But you know, it's very dangerous. It only takes one punch. You look what happened with Povetkin, White. You know, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz. You know, these upsets happen. You know, they happen, and let's not forget, if he does win, does knock me out or whatever, or beats me, it is an upset. You know, I'm a massive favourite for this fight, but I'm not looking at it like that at all. It's a world title fight. I'm taking it very seriously. You know, I know what I was like when I was coming up. You know, wanting to be world champion. I know I'd do anything to be world champion. So. I'm thinking of his mentality, and it's very dangerous. You know, it's of course it's dangerous. You know, he's a good fighter. He's tall as me, same record, 16-0, one more knockout than me. Carries the power in both hands, punches through the target. The fight that he become mandatory on, he beat a very good opponent, knocked him out. So yeah, he's got power. I need to be very wary and switched on. I can't be looking over him. Everybody thinks I'm just going to blow this guy away, but. That's where the mistakes happen in these fights. I believe that Anthony Joshua looked over Andy Ruiz, and I believe that Dillian Whyte was looking over Povetkin, and look what happened. You know, so I'm going to make sure I don't repeat that mistake, and keep my eyes firmly on the game. You know, and that's it. But you know, having said that, I've watched him a lot. I don't think he's really got anything that I've never seen before. You know, I've been all over the world. I've got abundance of experience in the amateur game and in the pro game now as well. So, seen every kind of style you can get thrown at me. So, I don't think he's going to have anything that I'm not used to or haven't seen. But, you know, as boxing, anything can happen. So, I need to be switched on.
I know you and Ben went down to the show, the Frank Warren show the other week, just to kind of scout it out and see what it was like fighting with no fans around there. I've been at pretty much all of your biggest fights. Not going to be at the fight this weekend, but that's a conversation for another day. What are you going to be like fighting in front of, I mean, because every Josh Taylor fight, I mean, I always say to Craig Scott, one of our writers, one of the great experiences that I've had from my career in boxing is listening to Flower of Scotland at a Josh Taylor fight. Now, you're not going to have that here. You're not going to, I mean, I remember in the Postal fight when things were getting a little bit difficult for you in the middle rounds and how the crowd rose and surged, and I know that you feed off that atmosphere. What's that going to be like for you going in this time?
I think it's going to be no problem. You know, we've got our head around it, and we've had that scouting mission, sorry, had that last week at the boxing. So, yeah, but I don't think it's going to be any problem, Rob. We're training in here, we're sparring in here, nobody's talking, no music, you know, we shut everything up. The way I always really do anyway, I've always sparred without music and stuff, so I don't think it's going to be any different, to be honest. You know, I'm going to have that fear factor, I'm going to have that nerves because as a fight, at the end of the day, the cameras are there, my 2 belts are on the line, the 3 belts are on the line, so yeah, of course I'm going to have that fear factor and the nerves there because it's a fight then, you know what I mean, it's actually matters, it's the records on the line, it's not a sparring session. So of course I'm going to have it. I don't think it's going to make any difference at all having the crowd on there or not. Obviously, love the crowd, and it makes up the whole experience, and it makes it unforgettable nights and experiences. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to be any difference when you're standing in there and somebody's trying to take your head off. You shouldn't switch on and forget about the crowd. So yeah, well, I think it's got to be fine.
Obviously, everybody in boxing, myself included, really, really looking forward to the prospect of an undisputed champion, again at 140 pounds, yourself and Jose Ramirez. Before we talk about that potential fight, obviously he was in action a couple of weeks ago and somebody you know really well, Victor Postol. Mentioned to you off camera that I'd kind of spoken to a few people and a lot of people were kind of writing Postol off. You know him better than anybody. What did you make of the performance?
Well, it kind of went the way I thought it was going to go, especially the first half of the fight. Postol ran away with it. Ramirez coming out tight like a bull, trying to unload with big heavy punches and getting made to miss and look silly, and Postel ran away with the early half of the fight, and then Ramirez started coming back into it, won the sort of mid sort of rounds, and then I thought Postel had a good last couple of rounds as well. So I myself scored at a draw, but I don't think I've seen anything different from Ramirez that I've ever seen before. So it was the same thing. Although I do believe he can perform better than that, probably. I do think he can probably perform better than that, but again, I didn't really see anything that worries me, and I didn't see anything new or fresh or any other thing to his game that I've not seen before. So no, I wasn't too impressed, and I'm happy with what I saw. Yeah.
Obviously, different stages of yours and his careers when you boxed Victor Postol, but how would you compare your performances?
Yeah, I think obviously it was only my 12th or 13th fight, I think. It was my 13th fight against Postel. My first fight at world level as well, so I had a lot of pressure on myself, and a lot of sort of pressure riding on me to say that I'm world class. I had this sort of expectation of people and things like that to go and do this. So I put a lot of pressure on myself in that training camp, and in the fight you could see it in my performance. I was very tense. And now that I've been through that, that was my sort of big chance to say, right, I am world class, I'm ready to go for world titles. So I put extra bit of pressure on myself to win that fight and look good and put in a good performance, and it kind of shown the first half of the fight especially. But yeah, I think if I was to do that fight again now, I'd get through it easy. I think much more easier anyway. I wouldn't say easy because Postel was never going to be easy, but I'd say I'd breeze through it a little bit easier and be well more convincing next time around if it ever happened. But it's been and done, different stages in my career. We're here now and that's it. I'm not thinking about anything else apart from next week. I'm not thinking about Ramirez or nothing. I'm thinking about this fight next week, and this is what matters, because ultimately if it doesn't go my way, it's fucked. Everyone's fucked. So I've got to get it done.
Yeah, and as you kind of correctly alluded to earlier, we're not that far removed from Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin, so if you did need a little bit of a kick up the arse, which I'm sure you didn't, then you got it in the shape of one nasty-looking left uppercut from a Russian. Talking about Jose Ramirez, obviously everybody wants to see the undisputed fight, not looking past this weekend, of course. Jack Catterall, WBO mandatory, there's been some talk about him or Ramirez being forced to box Jack Catterall and fulfill his mandatory obligation. What do you think of that potential fight?
I've got sort of kind of two opinions on it, really. From a boxer point of view, from my point of view, and from Jack's point of view. I know where Jack's coming from, because if I was in Jack's position, I would want the fight. He's been mandatory for a long time, so if I was Jack, I'd want the fight, of course. So from my point of view, and sort of boxing's point of view, I think. Then the boxing politics start getting in the way. If Jack's got to then get his shot, then I'll have to do another mandatory from my WBA, and then that delays the fight again, and it just gets in the way. It becomes mandatory upon mandatory, and this and that, and then he'll go then have a voluntary, or then I'll have to go and have a voluntary to keep active, and it just ends up not happening, or happening way later than it should be, or somebody ends up moving up or vacating, or you know what I mean, or gets beat or something, so, and then it doesn't happen. So I think for the good of the sport and boxing, I think it has to happen, really. It's not very often you get fights for all the belts, and two unbeaten champions want to go for it. So I think for me, I'd much rather get it done next. And I think Jack's in a great position either way. If he gets his title, he's getting the shot at two belts. But if he doesn't, has to wait, then he's sitting in pole position for someone for all the belts. So I think he's sitting in a good position no matter what. I think he's in a sort of win-win situation, really. But I can understand where he's coming from. He's been waiting for ages and he wants to get a shot. So that's my view on it.
Yeah, and obviously yourself and Jack both with MTK, Jose Ramirez with Top Rank, as are you. So do you think that there's potential for something to be worked out, given the fact that everybody's somewhat connected?
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier to make something work out because of the connections. So we'll just need to cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm forgetting about it. I'm focusing on Saturday, and that's it. You know, I don't want to talk about fucking Ramirez or keep getting asked about him every other day about it. I'm not fighting Ramirez. I'm fighting Apinun Khongsong on Saturday, and he might knock me out. So, and if he knocks me out, I'll not be fighting Ramirez or Jack Catterall or anything. None of that's happening. So I'm going to get by Saturday first, you know.
Jack Catterall versus Jose Ramirez, though, if and when that fight happens, how do you see that fight going? Do you think that's a difficult fight for Jose Ramirez?
Yeah, 100%. I think Jack's a very good operator. He's not had the chance to prove it at world class. He's world class yet, so this would be his chance. He's very clever, good head movement, slip inside, you know, and I think it would be a very good fight. But I think Ramirez would maybe just come out on top of that. But I don't know. It remains to be seen. I think it would be a very, very good competitive fight. 100%, yeah.
Last couple from me. One fight I'd like to grab your opinion on. Ivan Baranchyk, your old foe, against Jose Zepeda. Really, really interesting 140-pound fight coming up. What do you make of that fight?
I think that's a very good fight. I think Zepeda wins that. I fancy Zepeda to win that. I think he's I'm sure he's southpaw as well, isn't he? He's southpaw, aye. So he's slick and he's good, and you know he'll use his boxing ability to move around Baranchyk. Barancyk's very tough and punches hard, but he's very one-dimensional and sort of telegraphs what he's going to do. He doesn't come out straight away and have a feel around, or he comes out and straight away wham, solid jab and wham, big hook, and you know, so he's quite easy to read, Baranchyk, but can make it a tough night. I think Zepeda outboxes him. Wouldn't be surprised if he hurts him, but I think Zepeda outboxes him, yeah, outpoints him.
Who punched harder, Ivan Baranchyk or Regis Prograis?
Baranchyk, yeah, much more solid. Third and puncher. I was pissing blood for about 4 days after that fight, so yeah, 100% Baranchyk.
I remember it was some night. Before I let you go, it wouldn't be right to talk about him, probably because he can hear me slightly, but you were joined by an old friend in the camp, the Lightning. Lee McGregor has joined you, and Ben Davison here. Must be great to have a familiar face like Lee around.
Yeah, it's good. It's good having my wee pal back, you know, my wee bro back in camp. You know, it's obviously we were away for a while, but he was doing his own thing, but he seems to be happy here now as well. You know, we're back, hopefully getting the same cards, and you know, we're training here together, living it together. And yeah, it's good. We're from the same city and that as well, so we're going through it together, and it's good having a pal here and going through it with me, you know. So it's really good. Happy days.
He's got a good fight himself against Kareem Gurfi.
Yeah, it's a good fight for him. You know, I'm having to tell him to slow down. He's going to beat all my records. He's only had 9 fights, and he's got the British and Commonwealth, and now I believe he's going to win this belt as well. So he'll have British, Commonwealth, and European on 10 fights. So I'm going to have to tell him to fucking slow down, or he's going to beat me. He's going to have more belts than me. But no, I'm super proud of him. He's doing well. He's flying, and I think he'll win this fight as well. I think he'll walk through it, to be fair. So it's good to have him back on board and on the same team. So good.
See, I know you sort of tongue-in-cheek about that, but obviously I've known you for quite a while now, where you've been kind of the young upstart in the gym coming through and looking ahead at people who have kind of brought you on. Must be great now to be able to do that. You're in a position where you're unified champion, #1 in the division, and you can kind of be that person. You've got Shabazz Massoud as well in here, Lee McGregor, like bringing those guys on and being the person that they look towards.
Yeah, it's good, and it's good to just give them wee bits of, now that I've got the experience, and you know, pass on the bits of information and bits of advice that were given to me, and then obviously from my own experience in that as well, to say to them, do this way, and this is the way I do it, this what worked for me, like things like that, you know. And it's good to sit and listen and they take it on board. So it's good, really good to have them all here. Yeah, it's good, we have a good laugh.
It was teach them everything that you know, but not everything that you know.
Yeah, that's it, because then the student becomes a master, doesn't it?
Like an old kung fu film, isn't it?
Old Cobra Kai, aye.
Well, I saw you doing all of your kicking and spinning and your karate and stuff, and really like harping back to the days of your kickboxing.
Aye, I've been watching it, and I thought, you know, I started getting into it again. It was a bit stiff, like the kicks I was doing. Like it would take a few weeks to get back into it, like, but I think it wouldn't be too long if I stuck at it to come back, be able to do it again. So it was a wee bit of a laugh. I got a reply for actually Cobra Kai on Twitter actually after putting that video up here, so that was pretty cool.
Maybe a little crossover into MMA in the future, maybe.
Yeah,
Josh Taylor in the UFC.
Yeah, maybe me versus Conor McGregor or something, you never know. And a mixed martial arts fight, but no elbows and no down on the ground.
We'll see what we can do. I think Conor McGregor would love to come on Boxing Social and talk about it. We'll sort it out. Josh Taylor, always a real pleasure. Really good to see you. Been coming on a year since I've seen you face to face. Been a real pleasure. Look forward to seeing you in action this weekend against Apinun Khongsong, albeit from the comfort of my living room and not there ringside cheering you on as usual. But as always, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Catch up with you soon.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
Push.